what is going on right now in the communities in the interior of the country. At 3 in the morning, there's a bang on your door. Police open the door. So what happens? Undocumented people, it's been proven over and over, are less likely to commit crime or to be violent people. So they open the door. Police open the door. What would you do if somebody knocked? You think there's a fire or whatever? As soon as they open the door, they storm in. And going back to Leon Gonzalez, remember that picture of the fisherman holding a Leon Gonzalez in the closet? And there's the guy with the riot gear with the gun and the little kids all scared. Well, they're doing that today. They're doing that today, every day, to communities across the country. But not to every community. You've never heard of a raid. Many of you have probably never even heard of these raids. They're happening right now. But you don't hear of a raid on the undocumented Irish community. And I don't want there to be raids, or the undocumented Canadian community. There's about 500,000 undocumented Irish people living here. And more power to them. I'm not saying that, I'm not making a position on that. What I am saying is that these raids are on two communities only. Latinos and Middle Eastern people. People that are dark-skinned like me, brown-skinned people. I'm going to be at Columbia University giving a speech on Monday. They allow the president of Iran. They're going to have me, but they don't allow the Minuteman founder, and that's good. The Minuteman founder can't go to
All right.
Columbia and speak. They rushed him off the stage when he was there last year, and then they invited me, so I'm going to be speaking there on Monday. Then Tuesday, I'm doing a national debate on immigration. There's a real right-wing extremist organization, which is called FAIR, Federation of American Immigration Reform. And when you see these talking vigilantes like Lou Dobbs or Bill O'Reilly, that's what they quote. They say, FAIR said this, or the Heritage Foundation said this. These are right-wing extremist groups. And they'll use these tactics because they'll say, well, I testified before Congress. And I'll go, so did I. Well, what? Doesn't mean anything. Anybody can testify before Congress. But they'll use this type of so we're going to have a big debate on Tuesday. It's going to be 3-on-3. It'll be very interesting. But we got to tell the truth. This is going to be in New York on NPR. It'll be on the National Public Radio. But we got to tell the truth. We got to tell people what is going on and demythify the myths that are out there. There's a great book by Noam Chomsky's daughter, that talks about the myths of the immigrants. We're taking people's jobs. Not true. Unemployment is very low in this country right now. I've never in my life, I was born and raised in San Diego, I've never seen somebody other than a Latino working in the fields when you drive up the 5 freeway. These are people that are working in these types of conditions. They hurt the economy. The undocumented community, according to Business Week and the Wall Street Journal, gives $7 billion a year to Social Security. How about when we buy products and services and food? We pay taxes too. How about when you buy your lettuce and tomatoes, it costs a lot less because of the fact that they're being paid so low. They're the drugs. Oh, they're causing problems with drugs. We were talking about Sinaloa a moment ago. The United States has 4% of the world's population. It consumes 60% of the world's illegal drugs. So where's the drug problem? It's not in Colombia, Bolivia, Peru, or Mexico. It's right here. This is where the problem is. Terrorism. Not one case of somebody crossing the Mexican border has committed a terrorist act. Not one. 3, the Canadian border, but not one. But the National Guard, the wall, the militarization is with Mexico. It's not fair. Had the wall been built from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific Ocean on September 10th, September 11th would have happened exactly the same way. We should be building bridges of communication with Mexico, not triple fences of separation. Mexico needs to be doing things too.
Yes.
Mexico also needs to be doing things, and the other countries. But don't forget that the policies of this country greatly influence what takes place in other parts of the world. We're talking about, the invasion of Iraq, the militarization of the border. This Blackwater operation that they're going to do here, they went into Mexico and talked to people. We're going to go talk to them later on down there and say, no, it's not going to be so bad. It's going to be good for the border. These black operations on the border is a recipe for disaster. We saw what they just did in Iraq. The little bit that we know from the media, killing civilians and the traffic is backed up and they have some VIPs. Who's a VIP? We're all equal. But they have these people in their cars that call them VIPs. They just push these cars out of the way. They crush cars and who do they think they are? Who do they think they are? And they're going to be doing this right here on the border? Special operations? I've been in the border, in the desert, because that's what we do. We go to the desert, we put water, and I've seen some very strange things from Border Patrol when they're all dressed in black doing these special drills. I don't know what they're doing. And this is the Border Patrol. Just imagine Blackwater. I cannot imagine it. I cannot imagine what it would be like. And I know there's a couple of questions, and I'll wrap it up here. But it's important that we all participate in this because it's very scary. The raids that are taking place when they're busted into people's houses. Is Enrique Morones there because he didn't report to immigration? So as soon as the person opens the door, then they go inside and every single person, how about your papers? How about your papers? How are your papers? They take people away in handcuffs, and their children are there watching this, regardless if they were born in the U.S. or not. They're children. And these are the people that are going to grow up and never forget this, never forget how the government was treating people. And this is happening right now. You don't hear about it. Of course, you're not going to hear about it in the Union Tribune. LA Times and stuff, they'll have a little bit about it. But it's important that we really find out what is happening, because we can make a difference. The person that's going to make a difference in all of this is the person you see in the mirror every morning. That's the person that's going to make a difference. And in closing, there's a story that many of you have heard. It's about a man walking along the beach with his son. And his son is a little 5-year-old boy, and his son is picking up these starfish. And he's throwing these starfish into the ocean. So the father says to the son, "Son, what are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm picking up these starfish because they're dying out here. You know, the tide's gone in, it's really hot." And the father says, "Yeah, but there's thousands of starfish. What you do doesn't make a difference." And the little 5-year-old boy has a starfish in his hand, and he says, "It'll make a difference to this one." And he throws it into the ocean, and I thought, wow, the power of one, the power of one. 2 weeks after I hear the story, I used to be with the San Diego Padres, don't hold that against me. So 2 weeks after I hear this story, I'm at the stadium, this is when we were at Qualcomm, and I get a call, and it's a little kid. And he goes, "Oh, well I'll tell you what happened before that." 2 weeks after I hear the story, I'm out in the desert. And we're out in the desert, and we run into these two people. We're in the Imperial Valley, just east of here. And I'm with another volunteer, and we go running out because one guy is carrying the other guy, like out of the Bible. The guy was almost dead. So all of a sudden, we go up to them, we give them water, and put him under a tree. And I was going to take him to the hospital, but he goes, "Please don't take me, you know, I don't want to get deported and all this." But I was going to take him anyways, because I didn't want him to die. I would make sure he wouldn't be deported, but I didn't have to come to that, because he started living back, and I saw the life come back into him, the water and everything. So we stayed with him several hours, and then we left. We left because we had other water to put, and he was in a safe place. So 2 weeks after that, or a month after the incident, I get a call, and it's a little boy, and he goes, "Hi, sir, you don't know me, but my name is Francisco, and 2 weeks ago my dad told me you saved his life in the Imperial Valley, in the desert." And I thought, holy cow, you know, this is one of the guys that was out there a couple of weeks ago. And I go, "How about Pedro?" Because Pedro was the guy that was really sick. And he says, "My dad really didn't know Pedro that well. They kind of met along the way." And I thought, "Oh, okay, well, you know, how are you guys doing?" "We're great. We're in LA," and so forth. They crossed because their family lived in LA. Well, 2 weeks after that, or a month after the incident, I get a call from Chicago, and it's Pedro's son. And it was fantastic. It's very common in our culture. Like, we were talking here with Miss Hogan here. My dad's name is Luis. My older brother's named Luis. Some of you know my brother Luis. My mom's name's Laura. My older sister's name's Laura. Well, this Francisco, Pedro, the same thing. Well, Pedro says, "My dad made it here to Chicago," and he's very grateful. And I said, "That's wonderful." So when people think or say, you know, "Enrique, what you do doesn't make a difference," or to any of us, I say, "It sure made a difference to Francisco and that." And that's why what you do by being here is very important, because we got to stop this machine, this evil machine, this evil regime. You know, what's taking place right now is horrendous. I was just, when I ran into these guys the other day at the fence, I was telling you about the water. I was with a guy from Germany, and he was saying, "Do people know in the United States how the whole world is looking at the United States and not looking at it with pride, but saying, how do they realize what's happening? How can they have a president or a governor like this?" And I said, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that. They don't realize it. They're saying the prestige and the way that the United States used to be looked up to by certain people is gone. It's gone, and we got to do something about it. It's very, very scary. And that's why it's important that we make a difference. And this is this is ground zero right here with Blackwater. That's why it's important that we act. We're a nonprofit group. There's flyers out here. We go out all the time to put water. We do a lot. You know, we also were involved in the massive demonstrations that took place in the spring of last year. We do a thing called Marcha Migrante. The first one was last year when we went from San Diego to Washington, D.C. in 40 cities in 27 days. We asked people to take to the streets and march. You saw the marches. This year we went from San Diego to Brownsville and back. We gathered stories to take to the White House and say, this is Francisco's story or Marco Antonio's story. We need immigration reform. Next year, February 2nd, we're going to go from San Diego to Canada and back. Go up to the Canadian border and say, where's the wall? How come there's no wall here? You know, what's going on? You know, you say that, the open border and all this type of stuff. So we do these things to kind of galvanize the community, and also they galvanize us. They give us power and energy, and to talk to people along the way and say, what's going on in your community? Let's work together and let's say no. And then next year, of course, very important because it's an election year. So we go out there and we say the most important thing that you can do is vote. And for those of you that cannot vote, you know people that can vote. Make sure you make the call. Make the call and get them to vote for a candidate. With that, I'll open it up to questions. Thank you all very much. Muchas gracias. God bless you.
One another right now, and you live in those, yeah. Oh, come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try to love one another right